All right, so let's talk about the definition of executive coaching. What is executive coaching and what is it not, really? So executive coaching is really about supporting successful people to get better at their job performance. So this is successful people, high-level leaders, high potentials, and people who really want to commit to change and develop themselves in a leadership growth process. Now, the other part is that it's really about growing leadership effectiveness, and more particularly behavioral effectiveness. And that also then includes things like competencies or transition up or transition into the company as people are coming into their new roles, or even addressing certain derailers of high potential people or senior leaders. Now, at the same time, executive coaching is really about the professional work environment and their professional roles and responsibilities. So it's not about career coaching, it's not about life coaching and all these kind of things. Then the next step is to talk about or to make sure that executive coaching is about creating measurable results. So it's really about delivering on a number of results that are important to the leader as well as important to the organization. And as these results are being created, it's really important that these results are also acknowledged and seen by the stakeholders. If there is leadership change, if a leader becomes more effective in decision making, for example, but stakeholders don't see this, then actually those results don't really exist. Part of stakeholder-centered coaching is also to make sure that there is a very well-defined and structured executive coaching process. That's very typical and characteristic for stakeholder-centered coaching, as you will see. And then another part of executive coaching is also that in most societies and in most cases of executive coaching, it's very much of a face-to-face process. At the same time, yes, there is a lot of coaching also happening in a telephone environment or Skype or an e-meeting type of environment. So that is also definitely happening more and more and more. That also depends on the different cultures that people are part of. Like in India and in Japan, there's a lot more face-to-face coaching happening, whereas in societies like the US or even in the UK, you see that telephone coaching, so coaching through the telephone, is much more accepted because people are much more used to be on telephone conferences with other people. Because also these organizations and societies are also much more distributed in the way they have been working already for decades. Now, this executive coaching definition is really something that is based on some studies done by Harvard Business Review a couple of years ago, but also based on the experience of stakeholder-centered coaching and Marshall Goldsmith. So it's a little bit of a combined definition that we're using here. So now one thing I want to emphasize also is that executive coaching is also a longer process. So it's like 6 months or 9 months or 12 months. Actually, many of our engagements are 12-month engagements, as we will talk about a little bit later in more detail. And so executive coaching is not about 3 hours of coaching or 3 months of coaching. It is really about an extended period of time where you then also, throughout that period, can demonstrate leadership change. So that's what's all on this slide. Now, when you look at the top of the slide, we kind of summarized executive coaching in a few words, being feedback and feed forward from stakeholders on the job. That's really what executive coaching is all about. It's about feedback and feed forward from stakeholders on the job. Now, when you look at that definition, that summarized definition, what are some of the words that are really missing in that definition, which you would expect maybe to be in that definition? So what are the words that are missing? So we're going to have a short discussion on that with our participants.